I took my girlfriend to meet my family, only to learn. She was the one who bullied my sister in high school until she fell into depression. And then she laughed when my sister had a panic attack right there. Now my family's begging me to dump her, but she swears she's a different person now. I, 31 male, work as a senior financial analyst at a major investment firm, making around $190,000 annually. Been grinding for years to get where I am today. Grew up lower middle class in a small industrial town where the main employer was a factory that closed when I was 16. Put myself through college working 2 jobs, dishwasher at night, campus maintenance during the day, and taking out massive student loans that I just finished paying off last year. The whole bootstrap struggle that people talk about, but don't really understand unless they've lived it. My family means absolutely everything to me, because we came from nothing and stuck together through every hardship life threw at us. My parents never made more than $35,000 combined in any given year, but they sacrificed everything to make sure their kids had opportunities they never did. Been dating Madison, 27 female, for about 10 months now. She works as a social media coordinator at some trendy startup making maybe $45,000, but acts like she's running Fortune 500 marketing campaigns and changing the world one Instagram post at a time. Constantly talks about influencer partnerships and brand synergy like she's some marketing genius. Lives in this ridiculously expensive luxury downtown apartment that costs more than my mortgage payment, $3,200 a month for a 1-bedroom, drives a pristine BMW that's definitely way beyond her actual salary range. The apartment has marble countertops, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a doorman. Completely absurd for someone making her income. I've been covering a significant portion of her living expenses lately. Fancy dinners at restaurants where entrees cost more than most people spend on groceries in a week, weekend trips to wine country that run $2,000 plus per trip, shopping sprees that would make a celebrity blush. We're talking $800 dinners, $1,500 purses, $300 bottles of wine that she orders like it's water. She always has some perfectly crafted excuse about temporary cash flow issues or waiting for her big promotion that's definitely coming next quarter, babe. Always talks about how her startup is about to go viral and she'll be making 6 figures easy within months. Last weekend was my dad's 60th birthday celebration. Big extended family gathering at my parents' house. They still live in the exact same modest 3-bedroom ranch where they raised 3 kids on combined blue-collar salaries that barely covered basic necessities. The house where my mom clipped coupons for hours every Sunday. Where we shopped at thrift stores and considered McDonald's a special treat. The same house where my dad worked double shifts at the plant to pay for our college applications. Where my mom stretched hamburger meat with breadcrumbs to feed 5 people. The furniture is still the same stuff they bought 20 years ago. Practical, durable, but definitely not stylish. Hand-me-down everything, mismatched dishes, couches covered with blankets to hide the wear, but it's home, and it represents everything good about working hard and staying humble. I invited Madison because after 10 months together, it seemed like the natural time for her to meet everyone properly and see where I came from. She insisted on spending $3,000 of my hard-earned money on some designer dress for the occasion, claiming she absolutely needed to make the right impression on your family and represent you well in front of everyone who matters. The dress cost more than my parents spend on clothes in 2 years combined. My younger sister Emma, 24 female, was driving up from her graduate program 3 hours away, specifically for Dad's party. Emma's always been the quiet, intensely studious type who prefers books to parties and keeps her circle small but meaningful. The kind of person who reads research papers for fun and can discuss complex psychological theories like other people talk about the weather. Had a really rough time during high school that left lasting scars, but somehow came through it all stronger, more determined, and fiercely independent. She's currently pursuing her PhD in clinical psychology on a full academic scholarship at a top-tier university, focusing on trauma recovery in adolescence. Absolutely brilliant young woman who's definitely going places in life. Her professors constantly praise her research. She's already published 2 papers as a graduate student, and she's presenting at national conferences. Complete opposite of Madison in every conceivable way. Emma earned every single opportunity through relentless hard work and genuine talent, studying until 2 a.m. most nights, working as a research assistant, volunteering at crisis centers. While Madison expects everything to be handed to her on a silver platter, Emma has built her success through pure determination and intelligence. So we walk into my parents' modest living room around 6 that evening. The same room with the worn carpet and mismatched furniture that's been there since I was in elementary school. Emma's in the small kitchen with my mom, carefully helping arrange homemade food on the collection of mismatched plates and serving dishes that have been in our family for decades. When they both turn around simultaneously to greet us, Emma takes one look at Madison and goes completely white as a sheet. Just freezes there like she's encountered some terrifying ghost from her past, staring at Madison with this expression mixing pure terror, disbelief, and something that looked almost like nausea. Madison notices the reaction immediately and starts laughing. Not nervous social laughter or awkward situation laughter. Genuine, cruel amusement, like she's watching some entertaining spectacle unfold for her personal enjoyment. She leans over to me and whispers just loud enough for Emma to clearly hear every word. "Is that the sister you always talk about so much?" Wow, she looks exactly like I imagined she would. The tone was so incredibly condescending and deliberately hurtful, like she was making some cutting observation about a zoo exhibit rather than meeting my beloved sister. Emma drops the ceramic plate she was holding, glass and food shattering everywhere across the linoleum kitchen floor, and runs upstairs without uttering a single word. My mom gives Madison this look that could literally freeze hell over, and immediately follows Emma up the narrow staircase, leaving me standing there completely confused and bewildered, while Madison just shrugs casually, like nothing remotely significant had happened. Madison delicately steps over the broken glass scattered across the floor and starts asking my dad about our absolutely adorable little house, in this sickeningly sweet tone that made my skin crawl with revulsion. Every single word dripped with barely concealed condescension, masked by fake politeness, like she was graciously touring some quaint historical museum exhibit instead of meeting the family of someone she claimed to love. 20 long, uncomfortable minutes later, my mom comes back downstairs looking genuinely shaken and pulls me aside into the narrow hallway. Her voice was actually trembling when she told me that Emma had locked herself in the tiny upstairs bathroom and was having a full-blown panic attack, hyperventilating, sobbing uncontrollably. The complete works. My mom looked me straight in the eyes with an expression I'd never seen before and said, "Son, I really don't think you understand who Madison actually is to our family." That's when the devastating truth finally came out. Madison and Emma had attended the same exclusive private high school. Madison was 2 years older and in a completely different social stratosphere. Madison was apparently the undisputed queen bee who made Emma's daily life absolute psychological torture for nearly 2 full academic years. Made cruel fun of her clothes because our family couldn't afford designer brands like the other kids. Spread vicious rumors that she was just a charity scholarship kid who didn't belong with decent people. Systematically got her excluded from every social group, study session, and extracurricular activity. Emma never told me any of the specific horrifying details back then because she was too embarrassed, ashamed, and convinced it was somehow her fault. All I knew at the time was that she suddenly started dreading school every morning, needed extensive therapy, and became really withdrawn from everything she used to enjoy. I naively assumed it was just normal teenage adjustment struggles that everyone goes through. The absolutely worst part? Madison has spent the entire last 10 months telling me elaborate, detailed stories about how she was supposedly bullied and ostracized in high school for being too pretty, too successful, and too confident for the jealous losers. She painted herself as some innocent victim of envious classmates who couldn't handle her natural superiority. Complete and utter fabrication specifically designed to manipulate my sympathy and make me protective of her. When I finally confronted Madison in the car during our silent, tense drive home, she didn't even attempt to deny anything. Just said with casual indifference, "Oh, that Emma, yeah, I remember her now, barely. Look, everyone was competitive in high school. That's just how exclusive schools work. It's honestly not my fault she couldn't handle normal social pressure and competitive dynamics. Couldn't handle it. My brilliant, sensitive sister couldn't handle being systematically humiliated and psychologically tortured by some spoiled rich girl who genuinely believed she was inherently superior to everyone around her." After the complete disaster at my parents' house, I decided I absolutely needed to understand exactly what kind of person I was actually dealing with. Called my buddy Jake, who had attended the same elite private school several years ahead of both Madison and Emma. His memory of Madison was crystal clear and deeply, deeply disturbing. Dude, she was absolutely notorious throughout the entire school community. Had this tight crew of incredibly wealthy, vicious mean girls who would systematically target anyone they perceived as beneath their elevated social status. Your sister definitely wasn't their only victim. They psychologically destroyed several vulnerable girls over the years, left lasting damage. But Madison was undoubtedly the worst of them all, because she was so calculated and strategic about the cruelty. Never got in any official trouble because her father donated massive amounts to the school endowment every year. Turns out her dad owns 3 highly successful luxury car dealerships spread across our entire state. Madison grew up with absolutely everything imaginable handed to her on a silver platter, never once faced a single meaningful consequence for her actions during her entire privileged, sheltered existence. When I confronted her the next day, she was leisurely getting ready for weekend brunch with her equally vapid girlfriends. The kind of women who spend 3 hours getting ready to post Instagram photos of their avocado toast, wearing yet another ridiculously expensive designer outfit that I'd completely bankrolled. Naturally, a $400 blouse, $600 shoes, jewelry that cost more than most people's rent. I asked her directly and specifically why she never once mentioned knowing Emma during our entire 10-month relationship, through countless conversations about our families and past. Because it's ancient history that doesn't matter anymore to anyone. Good grief, you're being incredibly dramatic about some silly high school social dynamics that happened years ago. Emma was always weird, awkward, and antisocial anyway. We actually tried to include her in activities and social events, but she just couldn't fit in with our crowd at all. She said this while checking her reflection in her phone camera, more concerned with her appearance than the conversation. Tried to include her? I showed Madison several pages from Emma's old journal entries that my mom had carefully saved from that terrible period in protective storage. Detailed, heartbreaking accounts of being called charity case and scholarship trash on a daily basis by Madison's crew. How they would deliberately knock books out of her hands in busy hallways, systematically exclude her from group projects, even when teachers specifically assigned them. Make absolutely sure she had to eat lunch completely alone every single miserable day. Stories about girls following her to the bathroom to continue tormenting her, about having her backpack dumped out in the hallway, about being deliberately left out of every social event and study group. Madison barely glanced at the journal pages before dismissing them entirely with a wave of her manicured hand. That's definitely not how I remember any of it happening at all. Emma was always playing victim and dramatically exaggerating absolutely everything for attention. Some people just honestly can't handle being around successful, confident women who know their actual worth and aren't ashamed of it. She actually rolled her eyes while saying this, like Emma's pain was some kind of inconvenience to her. I completely lost my composure and started yelling about how she'd been systematically lying to me for months, how I'd been financially supporting someone who had psychologically tortured my innocent little sister for years. Her response was absolutely mind-blowing in its casual cruelty. You're being completely ridiculous and overdramatic about this situation. You make excellent money in your career. So what's honestly the big deal with spending some of it on me? I'm absolutely worth the investment in our future together. And frankly, if you can't separate ancient history from our current relationship, maybe you're not as emotionally mature as I originally thought you were. Worth the investment. Like I'm nothing more than her personal banking service, specifically designed to fund her extravagant lifestyle indefinitely. Then she said something that made me see her absolutely true character, with perfect, horrifying clarity. Emma probably only got into that PhD program because of diversity quotas anyway. She should honestly be thanking me for toughening her up and preparing her for how the real world actually works. I told her we were completely and permanently finished. She actually laughed with genuine amusement and said, "You'll definitely be back within a week, maybe sooner. You're incredibly lucky to have someone like me in your life. Women of my caliber and background don't stay single for very long." The sheer audacity was absolutely breathtaking and infuriating. This woman has been systematically living off my hard-earned income while treating my beloved family like complete garbage. And she genuinely believes I'm the fortunate one in this relationship dynamic. It's been exactly 1 week since I definitively ended things with Madison. I naively thought that blocking her number and all social media accounts would be sufficient to make her disappear. I was completely and utterly wrong about that assumption. She showed up at my apartment complex Monday morning at exactly 6 a.m., somehow managing to get past building security through unknown means. Started aggressively pounding on my door and screaming at the top of her lungs about how I owe her and can't just throw away everything we built together, like it meant absolutely nothing. When I opened the door specifically to tell her to leave immediately, she tried to physically push past me into my private apartment. I firmly blocked her path, and she immediately started crying, obviously manufactured tears with her makeup still perfectly intact. Said she couldn't possibly afford her expensive rent without my continued financial support, that I was completely abandoning her after she'd invested her best years in building our relationship. Her best years. We dated for exactly 10 months total. She actually had the unbelievable nerve to hand me a professionally typed, itemized spreadsheet of expenses she believes I should continue covering indefinitely. Monthly rent, car payment, credit card minimum payments, shopping allowances, dining budgets, entertainment expenses. The total came to exactly $8,400 for the next 3 months because that's realistically how long it'll take her to find someone else at my specific financial level. I laughed directly in her entitled face and firmly shut the door. She stood outside screaming threats and profanities for 20 solid minutes until building security physically removed her from the premises. Then, the relentless text message campaign started immediately. Not from her blocked number, she was clearly using different phones, probably borrowed from sympathetic friends. Messages alternating between pathetic begging and increasingly direct threats. "You completely ruined my entire life. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are. Pay me what you legitimately owe me or I'll systematically destroy your reputation everywhere." I decided to contact her parents directly to see if they could somehow control their daughter's increasingly erratic behavior. The conversation revealed some very interesting and illuminating information about Madison's well-established patterns. Her mom was genuinely apologetic, but completely unsurprised by everything I described in detail. Turns out Madison has systematically burned through several long-term relationships with financially successful men over the past few years. Always ends exactly the same predictable way. Demands continued financial support after breakups, claims she was wronged and abandoned, plays victim to absolutely anyone who will listen to her carefully crafted sob stories. Her dad was significantly more direct and honest about Madison's fundamental character. Madison's always been incredibly entitled and manipulative since childhood. We stopped enabling her behavior financially several years ago, but she just finds other people to support her lifestyle instead. She specifically targets successful men because she genuinely believes she deserves their money without contributing anything meaningful herself. They offered to speak with her about the harassment, but warned me that she doesn't respond well to being cut off from financial resources. She gets increasingly desperate and vindictive when her lifestyle is threatened in any way. That warning turned out to be completely prophetic. Emma called me yesterday evening, completely shaken up and terrified. Madison had somehow located her university social media accounts and sent her a long, deliberately cruel message. "Your pathetic brother completely destroyed my life because you're still bitter about some insignificant high school social dynamics. Grow up and stop ruining relationships with your ridiculous victim complex." That was absolutely the final straw for me. This woman is now harassing my vulnerable sister again after everything she put her through during those traumatic years. Madison's systematic harassment campaign escalated dramatically over the following week into something genuinely concerning and borderline stalking behavior. She created multiple elaborate fake social media profiles with stolen photos to contact my friends and professional colleagues, spreading malicious claims that I'm emotionally abusive, and abandoned her when she needed me most. She even created fake accounts on dating apps using my photos, messaging women with crude and inappropriate content to damage my reputation. The fake profiles had detailed backstories and multiple photos. She put serious effort into this deception. Tuesday afternoon, she somehow gained unauthorized access to my corporate office building downtown, convinced the front desk receptionist that she was my girlfriend, bringing surprise lunch as a romantic gesture, even brought flowers and wore the kind of outfit that screams, "wholesome girlfriend." When I came downstairs completely unsuspecting, she created a massive, embarrassing scene in our professional corporate lobby, crying hysterically, begging me to work things out, making everyone extremely uncomfortable. She was practically shouting about our relationship problems in front of my colleagues, clients, and business partners. Building security had to physically escort her out, but not before she screamed that I was destroying an innocent woman's life over nothing, loud enough for half the building to hear. My supervisor pulled me aside later that afternoon, with obvious concern written all over his face. Apparently, Madison had called our main office number earlier that morning, claiming to be conducting a reference check for a potential employer, considering me for a position. Started asking strange, probing questions about my character, reliability, financial management skills, and whether I had any personal issues that might affect my work performance. Professional tone, but clearly fishing for any compromising information she could potentially use against me later. She even asked about my relationship stability and whether I'd ever had anger management issues. The absolute final straw came Thursday evening. She contacted Emma's PhD advisor directly, claiming to be a concerned family friend, worried about Emma's mental stability, and whether she was psychologically fit for graduate study. Emma was completely devastated when her advisor mentioned this concerning call from someone claiming to know our family. The advisor didn't take it seriously because Emma's academic performance speaks for itself, but Madison had clearly done extensive research beforehand, knew the advisor's full name, specific program details, Emma's research focus areas. This wasn't random harassment anymore. This was calculated psychological warfare specifically designed to destroy my sister's academic future. Time to fight back with absolutely everything I have available. Here's what most people don't realize about working in finance. We're essentially professional investigators with advanced training. I analyze companies daily, research complex backgrounds, dig through financial records, identify patterns and inconsistencies. I have access to specialized databases, professional networks, and research tools that most people don't even know exist. I spent the entire weekend conducting comprehensive research on Madison's real situation behind the facade. Social media history going back years, employment records, educational background, financial information that's legally accessible through professional channels. What I discovered was absolutely enlightening and damaging. She was expelled from her first college for serious academic dishonesty, caught paying someone to write multiple papers, transferred schools under a cloud, barely graduated with a 2.8 GPA after 6 years of struggling. Her current job situation? She's been lying about that too. She's not a social media coordinator making $45,000. She's an entry-level marketing assistant making exactly $28,000 annually. Her luxury downtown apartment? Co-signed by her father, who's been covering 70% of her monthly expenses for years. The pristine BMW lease agreement entirely in her father's name with him making all payments. This woman has never been financially independent for a single day of her adult life. Here's the most revealing discovery. She currently owes $47,000 in credit card debt spread across 6 different cards from different banks. The shopping sprees I've been funding weren't just frivolous spending. They were desperate attempts to maintain a lifestyle she absolutely cannot afford on her own. But the real goldmine was her old social media accounts from high school. Remember how she claimed she was bullied back then? I found her original post from that era. Screenshots of her bragging about making other girls cry, calling classmates losers and poor trash, organizing systematic boycotts against girls she didn't like. She literally documented her own cruelty and left the evidence online for years. I quietly organized everything into a comprehensive file. Bank statements showing exactly how much I've spent supporting her lifestyle. $23,847 over 10 months. Screenshots of every harassing message she sent. Complete documentation of her lies about employment, income, and personal history. Madison made her most critical and devastating mistake the following week. She decided to target my professional life directly and aggressively. She created an elaborate fake LinkedIn profile with stolen photos and started systematically messaging my colleagues and business contacts, claiming to be a former client with serious concerns about my work ethics and personal judgment. Sent similar carefully crafted messages to people throughout my professional network, dropping strategic hints about personal issues affecting professional performance and concerning behavior patterns that clients should know about. The finance industry is surprisingly small and tightly interconnected. Word travels fast, especially negative information that could affect someone's career. Even though my supervisor and colleagues know me well enough to dismiss obvious nonsense, it still planted seeds of doubt in some minds. In finance, professional reputation determines absolutely everything: career advancement, client relationships, earning potential, industry standing. So, I decided to return the favor and show her what professional destruction really looks like when executed properly. First, I compiled everything I'd researched about Madison into a comprehensive professional dossier: financial deception, employment lies, documented history of harassment and psychological abuse, evidence of her systematic attempts to manipulate my professional contacts and damage my career reputation. Then I started making strategic phone calls to the right people. Madison's company has strict social media policies and professional ethics requirements clearly outlined in their employee handbook. Turns out, using fake profiles to harass someone's business contacts and making false claims about their professional character constitutes serious grounds for immediate termination. I sent their HR department a detailed report with timestamps, screenshots, and complete documentation of her behavior patterns over time. She was terminated Friday morning for multiple policy violations. But I was nowhere near finished with my response. Her fake LinkedIn profile reported to LinkedIn with comprehensive evidence it was being used for targeted harassment. Profile immediately deleted, and her legitimate LinkedIn account flagged for suspicious activity and policy violations. Her credit card situation. I researched her application history and discovered she'd been systematically lying about her income for years to qualify for higher limits. Reported the fraud to all 6 credit card companies with detailed documentation. They're conducting investigations that could result in serious criminal charges. Her luxury apartment situation? Contacted the landlord with documentation showing she'd been misrepresenting her income and employment status on lease applications. Turns out providing false financial information is grounds for immediate lease termination. I also tracked down 3 other men she'd previously targeted through her social media history. Wasn't difficult to find them once I knew what patterns to look for. Turns out they'd all experienced nearly identical situations with Madison: financial manipulation, harassment after breakups, attempts to damage their reputations, One of them had actually pursued legal action against her for harassment and had extensive documentation of her behavior patterns. We compared notes and discovered she's been running the exact same scheme for over 5 years, systematically targeting successful men for financial exploitation. Here's where karma really delivered the perfect blow. Her father discovered her latest behavior when one of her previous targets contacted him directly with evidence of her harassment campaigns. Apparently, he's been dealing with Madison's relationship problems and financial crises for years, and finally reached his breaking point. He completely cut off her financial support and removed her from all family accounts immediately. By Sunday evening, Madison had lost her job, her apartment lease was terminated, her credit cards were frozen pending fraud investigations, and her father had eliminated her financial safety net entirely. The woman who thought she could systematically destroy my life because I refused to bankroll her lifestyle indefinitely had just lost absolutely everything that mattered to her. The following week was absolutely wild, watching Madison's entire, carefully constructed world collapse in real time. Lost her luxury apartment Thursday morning. The landlord moved incredibly fast once they had documented evidence she'd been falsifying financial information on official documents. Security footage from the building shows her being escorted out by sheriff's deputies with nothing but a few hastily packed suitcases and boxes of belongings. Her credit card fraud investigations uncovered far worse than I initially expected. She'd been using completely fabricated pay stubs and employment verification documents to get approved for higher credit limits for over 2 years. That constitutes serious felony fraud in our state, and multiple banks are pursuing criminal prosecution aggressively. But here's the real satisfaction. Emma's PhD advisor reported Madison's academic interference attempts to university administration as a formal complaint. Turns out attempting to sabotage a graduate student's academic standing through false reports and character assassination is considered a serious form of academic harassment with significant legal implications. The university filed an official complaint with local law enforcement. Madison is now facing potential criminal charges for fraud, harassment, and academic interference. Her arrest record and mugshot appeared in local online databases yesterday morning. Meanwhile, she's been desperately cycling through different friends' couches, rapidly burning through relationships as people figure out what she's actually like. My buddy Jake from high school said word has spread throughout their entire old social circle incredibly fast. People are coming forward sharing their own stories about Madison's manipulative behavior going back years. The most satisfying part? Someone located those old social media posts I mentioned and shared them publicly across multiple platforms. Screenshots of teenage Madison bragging about psychological torture, calling classmates scholarship trash, organizing systematic campaigns to exclude and humiliate other girls. Her entire carefully constructed victim narrative exploded overnight. Turns out nearly half our mutual friends had similar stories about her manipulative, entitled behavior over the years. They just never connected the dots or compared experiences until now. Emma's doing absolutely fantastic, by the way. Her advisor was so impressed by how professionally she handled the harassment situation that she's being considered for additional prestigious fellowship opportunities. Sometimes the best revenge really is just living well and succeeding despite others' attempts to tear you down. As for Madison's job prospects, I heard through professional networks that she's applied for positions at several companies in our area. What she doesn't realize is that our industry has informal communication channels where information about problematic individuals travels very quickly. Her reputation preceded her at every single place she applied. 3 months after Madison's life completely imploded, I thought this story was finally over. I'd moved on, Emma was thriving, and Madison had disappeared from our lives entirely. Then yesterday happened, and everything came full circle in the most satisfying way possible. Got a phone call from an unknown number around 8 p.m. Madison's voice on the other end, but completely different from anything I'd ever heard before. Scared, desperate, broken. Please, I really need to talk to you. I'm in serious trouble, and you're honestly the only person who might understand. Turns out the criminal charges are proceeding exactly as expected. Her fraud case goes to trial next month, with prosecutors aggressively pushing for significant jail time. The university harassment charges were upgraded when investigators found evidence she'd done similar things to other students at her previous schools. She's looking at potential prison time and massive financial penalties that will take decades to pay off. She's been staying with her elderly aunt since her parents completely disowned her, working part-time at a retail store making $12 per hour. No car, no apartment, no prospects for anything better. Her former social circle won't associate with her after the high school post went viral and destroyed her reputation permanently. I know you probably hate me, but you're the only person who might understand what I'm going through. I made some mistakes, but I don't deserve to have my whole life completely destroyed over this. I almost hung up immediately. Then she said something that made me continue listening. I can make this right with Emma. I'll apologize properly. Do whatever you want me to do. Just please help me somehow. You have professional connections. You could put in a good word somewhere. I'll pay you back everything I owe, every single penny. I swear. For the first time since I'd known her, Madison sounded genuinely humbled. Broken, even. Like she'd finally been forced to confront reality without any safety nets or people to manipulate. Part of me actually felt a brief flicker of sympathy. Then I remembered Emma crying in that bathroom 3 months ago. The years of therapy my sister needed. The fake LinkedIn profiles. The systematic harassment campaign designed to destroy both our reputations. Here's exactly what I told her, word for word, because I'd been thinking about this conversation for months. Madison, you had literally months to apologize to Emma after our breakup. Multiple opportunities to show some basic human decency. Instead, you tried to destroy her graduate career out of pure spite. You had multiple chances to walk away quietly with some dignity intact. Instead, you chose to try ruining my professional reputation because I wouldn't continue funding your lifestyle. But I've learned my lesson. I'm not that person anymore. I understand how wrong I was. Her voice was getting higher, more desperate. You're only not that person because that person lost everything and has no power left. The moment you had any influence or resources again, you'd go right back to who you really are underneath. You haven't changed. You've just been forced to stop. She started crying. Real tears this time, not the calculated performance I'd witnessed so many times before. Her makeup was running, her voice cracking. Please, I'll do anything you ask. I'll sign a legal contract. I'll pay you back with interest over time. I'll apologize publicly to Emma and everyone else I hurt. I'll go to therapy. I'll volunteer somewhere. I'll prove I've changed. Just help me get some kind of life back. I'm living in my aunt's basement. I can't even afford a car. Please. The desperation was real, but so was everything she'd done to my family. Here's exactly what I told her. Emma spent 2 years having her life systematically destroyed by you in high school. 2 years of psychological torture that required years of therapy to overcome. She rebuilt herself from absolutely nothing, earned a full scholarship through pure merit, and created something meaningful with her life, despite everything you did to break her down. You spent 2 weeks losing a lifestyle you never actually earned through your own efforts, and you're completely falling apart. The fundamental difference between you and Emma is that when life knocked her down, she got stronger and more determined. She used the pain to fuel her success. When life knocked you down, you just looked for someone else to blame and rescue you. That's exactly why she's succeeding while you're facing criminal charges. I'm not going to save you from consequences you created through your own choices, but I'll make you one deal. Get your life together completely on your own. No help from family money, no wealthy boyfriends to exploit. No shortcuts or manipulation. Build something real through actual work and effort. Learn what it means to struggle and earn something. In 5 years, if you've genuinely changed and want to apologize to Emma, I'll consider listening. Until then, lose this number permanently and never contact my family again. I hung up and immediately blocked the number. Emma asked me later if I thought my response was too harsh. I told her that some people only learn when they hit rock bottom hard enough that all their safety nets and manipulation tactics stop working entirely.